You know, once the Cowboy fans dreamt of drafting Carson Wentz, now they have nightmares of having to play Carson Wentz. And soon their nightmares will be realized as Carson Wentz lifts his second Lombardi trophy because light always beats that satanic star.
18th pick in the NFL draft.
Hey, make us lunch. We're hungry.
Dallas still stinks. Yo, everybody, doom, King Ding back here. And you know, I got up this morning early and I was having my caffeine and I watched a couple videos. Two specifically I came across. One, Mark Holmes talking about Carson Wentz being fool's gold, and we're gonna get to that video in a minute. And then the second one was a new Eagles YouTube channel. It's called Bird Gang Sports. I'm going to put the link in the description. Definitely go sub him up. He did a response to Mark Holmes. I thought he did a great job. He was talking about how the Dallas Cowboys schedule isn't all that it's cracked up to be either. Basically using Mark's argument against him. So I thought it was good. He's close to 100 subscribers, so if you're an Eagles fan, go sub this guy up. I thought he did a great job, and shout out to Bird Gang Sports. Now, Mark Holmes did another video on Carson Wentz, and here's what I think right off the bat. Carson Wentz is owning space in Mark Holmes' head. He owns space in his head. Mark is scared of Carson Wentz. He is scared that Carson Wentz is going to light his Cowboys up because he knows deep inside it's going to happen. And I think him and Joe Boo, I think they have secretly a Carson Wentz voodoo doll that they're poking all the time with a pin like this. I want to see the doll, Mark. I want to see the Carson Wentz doll you've been poking, because I know you and Joe Boo, that voodoo doll, that satanic stuff, I know you're doing it. I want to see the Carson Wentz voodoo doll because I think you're really worried about Carson Wentz. And you know, in his video, he basically said things like Carson Wentz's 2017 season was not that impressive. It wasn't good. It wasn't that good because if you look at the competition he played, he didn't play really anybody that was that good. I mean, he only went to Carolina and beat Carolina in Carolina. He also basically carried the Eagles in that LA Rams game, throwing a touchdown pass on a torn ACL. But the only reason the Eagles were in that game was because of Carson Wentz's play. Look, here's how I see it. You can only play who's on your schedule. You can only play on who's on your schedule, and you can't hold it against them. Here's the truth of the matter when it comes to the Carson Wentz Dak Prescott debate, because the truth is this. Okay, we're going to be talking about who's better, Dak or Carson Wentz, for years to come. Eventually, this debate will be decided, and Carson Wentz, I think, will obviously win. But we're going to be talking about it for a long time. But here's the one thing, right? You want to talk about wins and clutch wins and all these kind of things. The truth of the matter is, no matter how you look at it right now, Carson Wentz plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that Carson Wentz played for in 2017, has won a Super Bowl. They have won a Super Bowl in the last few years. They won one. Carson Wentz was a part of that team. You can't take it away from him. You can say he didn't win the Super Bowl, he didn't win a playoff game, but he put them in a position to go to the Super Bowl. And no matter how you look at it, Carson Wentz has one Super Bowl ring. Dak Prescott has 0 Super Bowl rings. So if we're going to talk about wins and great wins and all these kind of things, well then let's just say, hey, since the Eagles have drafted Carson Wentz, they have won a Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys have not. And I don't care. You can say Nick Foles was the reason why. Nick Foles won a couple big games for us. There's no question about it. Nick Foles did his part. No question about it. But the mindset of the Eagles, the identity of the Eagles changed when they drafted Carson Wentz. And that drafting of Carson Wentz is why the Eagles elevated themselves into a Super Bowl champion. It starts with Carson Wentz being drafted. That's when everything changes. So right off the bat, okay, right off the bat, drafting Carson Wentz, trading all those picks to get Carson Wentz was worth it because the Eagles won a Super Bowl based upon doing that. If they don't make that move, okay, if they don't draft Carson Wentz, they are not winning a Super Bowl. That was the the single move that elevated this team into what they are today. And let me tell you, the 2017 year that Carson Wentz had was very impressive. If you just go back and look at the things he did, I don't know how anybody can say that it wasn't that great, that he didn't do that much against, really good teams. I think that's ridiculous. I think that that's the most ridiculous. It's funny because every week we played in 2017, I remember hearing, well, the Eagles haven't played anybody. They haven't played a #1 defense yet. So who do they play? They play the Denver Broncos, who at the time come in with the #1 defense. Carson Wentz puts 50 points on 50 burger. Oh, that defense thinks, they were the #1 ranked defense until Carson Wentz tore them up. Same thing with Carolina Panthers. You know how many teams he changed the complete statistics of that team because he lit them up. That's the truth. Now, what you did is you twisted numbers. You wanted to take a closer look. So I'm going to flip this on you. Let's take a look at your boy, Dak Prescott, right? What's the one thing we hear about Dak Prescott all the time when it comes to why he is better, why Cowboy fans think he's better than Carson Wentz? It's because they say he's more clutch. He has, 14 game-winning drives or things like that, right? So this is what they say. But let's take a deeper look at those 14 comebacks and see how clutch was he really? How clutch was Dak Prescott in those situations? And you know what? There was an article on Bleeding Green Nation where some people did that. They took a look deeper at what Dak Prescott did, how clutch he really was. And I want to go over some of these things with you because I find them very, very interesting. So what this article did that I thought was great was they took Dak Prescott's fourth quarter comebacks, okay, and they broke it into 3 categories. The first one was how many times were the Cowboys trailing by less than 3 points, a field goal to win the game. The second was how many times do the Cowboys need a field goal to tie? And then the third situation is how many times were the Cowboys trailing by 4 or more points and needed a touchdown in the fourth quarter to win. Okay, and they took these 3 categories and they placed Dak Prescott's numbers, his fourth quarter comebacks in one of these 3 categories. And it was very interesting. I'll put the link in the description. And this is what Mark Holmes, shout out to Mark Holmes, I love him, but this is what he was saying to do with Carson Wentz. Take a deeper look at the numbers. So we're going to do that same thing with Dak Prescott. So the first category I want to talk about is the least pressured situation of them all. It's when the Cowboys are tied or down by less than 3 points. So a field goal in the fourth quarter will win the game, okay? This is something that the Cowboys have been in a lot of situations of. They've run 323 plays over the last 3 years in the fourth quarter with this very situation where they're tied or down less than 3. And here's Dak Prescott's numbers, right? He is 73 completions for 101 attempts for 1,027 yards. He threw 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for a whopping 140.99 quarterback rating. That's fantastic, by the way. He also ran 13 times for 51 yards. One of them was an 11-yard touchdown run on a 3rd and 2 from the 11-yard line with 1 minute and 18 seconds. And he took only 3 sacks. Okay, this situation accounted for 11 of his fourth quarter game-winning drives. That's 78.6% of the time Dak Prescott was in this situation, okay? The least pressured situation of trying to come back, okay? Now, let's dial up. Let's dial up the pressure just a little bit here. Now we're going to talk about a situation where you need a field goal to tie the game, okay? Now, in those situations, Dak Prescott was 17 completions for 31 attempts for 200 yards. He threw 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for a 74.66 quarterback rating. He also ran 2 times for 9 yards, including a 4-yard touchdown on 1st and goal from the 4 with 2 minutes and 23 seconds remaining, and he took 1 sack. This situation has accounted for 1 of Dak Prescott's fourth quarter game-winning drives. So being in a situation where you need to tie the game by a field goal and you need a touchdown win, he's done it one time. So now let's look at the last situation. This is the most clutch situation of them all. Needing a touchdown to take the lead in the fourth quarter. Surely, Cowboy fans know this is where Dak Prescott must surely shine, because, I mean, this is where you really have to be clutch. This is really the pressure situation. So let's look at Dak Prescott and see what he did. Dak Prescott, in situations where he needed a touchdown to take the lead in the fourth quarter, he threw 33 completions for 58 attempts for 432 yards. He threw 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he had a whopping quarterback rating of 71.9. He also ran the ball 4 times for 28 yards, and he has 1 touchdown. And that was a 3rd and goal from the 1 with 1:41 left. And let's see, he's been sacked 8 times, fumbling twice. One of them was a Derek Barnett fumble in which Nigel Bradham picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown. The 1 touchdown pass that Dak Prescott did throw in the fourth quarter to take the lead was a 1st and goal from the 8 with 10 minutes and 28 seconds left in the fourth quarter. This situation of being down by, more than 4 points or more accounted for 2 of Dak Prescott's fourth quarter game-winning drives, accounting for 14.3% of the time. Okay? Let's see, here's the interesting statistic. For the bonus round, in the same span, Zeke carried the ball 16 times for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns, 14 yards and 32 yards, and caught 3 passes for another 22 yards. Meaning, Zeke Elliott had a big hand in some of those fourth quarter situations where they were down by more than a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Okay? So to recap, 85.7 of Dak Prescott's fourth quarter comeback drives were from down 3 points or fewer. And of 2 of the fourth quarter game-winning drives that were more than 4 points, one of them was with 10 minutes and 28 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And the other was a quarterback sneak on 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line. Now, that's pretty clutch. Oh, he's clutch. Dak is clutch. If your version of clutch is different from the rest of the world, because let me tell you, I don't think putting yourself in a position to kick a field goal to tie or win the game is necessarily clutch. It's a fourth quarter comeback. Nonetheless, you deserve credit for the comeback, but I don't really consider that the most pressure situation. You don't see Eagle fans saying, oh, you know what, Carson Wentz is so clutch, he took the Eagles down the field against the Giants so Jake Elliott could kick that 61-yard field goal. That was clutch. No, we didn't say that. We said, oh man, Jake Elliott just kicked a 61-yard field goal. You didn't see any Eagle fans saying, oh, Carson Wentz was so clutch in that game against the Tennessee Titans where he took the team down and they kicked a field goal in overtime to take the lead. It just was the defense's problem. You don't see people telling you he's clutch for that. No. Clutch is when you have 1:45 seconds left, no timeouts, maybe 1 timeout, and you need 4 points or more. You need a touchdown, and you go down and you score. That is clutch. That's what I consider clutch. And if you consider clutch 11 fourth quarter comebacks where you're down by 3 points or less, I'm sorry. If that's the only argument you can give me about Dak Prescott being better than Carson Wentz, I'm sorry. I would say maybe the Cowboys as a team deserve a little more credit for being in these games where they're down 3 points or less. I don't know. I don't buy that. If that's the only argument for Dak Prescott being better than Carson Wentz, then it's not even close. Carson Wentz is so much better than him because he's better than him in every other category. Carson Wentz's quarterback rating is better. It's gotten better over the last 2 years. Has Dak's? Carson Wentz can throw 30 touchdowns in a season. Can Dak? I don't think so. The truth of the matter is, the only arguments that the Cowboys have had against Carson Wentz, Dak being better, was the fourth quarter comebacks and the injuries. The injuries, the Cowboy fans, they can win that right now because Carson has been injured. They're allowed to say that. But the fourth quarter comebacks, come on. 3 points or less, and you're telling me that that's clutch? I don't think so. And these statistics prove it. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Don't be a dingbat.